All right, well, good afternoon again, everyone. And Chancellor Rodrigues, thanks for joining us. Chris, thanks very much for that introduction. So what a morning we've had already, right? We started with the earliest of our learners, and now we're going to work our way all the way to second chance and beyond. But what we're going to talk about right now is higher education. And as I did when I came out first thing this morning, I want to level set. Chris just talked about how we're aligning higher education with our economic goals of Florida. And I just want to level set on this. I mentioned this morning that if Florida was a country, we would be the 16th largest economy in the world. And we're a $1.74 trillion GDP. Spain is only $20 billion ahead of us. South Korea is another $110 billion after that. So we're on our way to being 15, then 14, on our way to being 10. That's really important because our higher education system is a big leverageable asset for Florida. It's literally a force multiplier if the business community partners with higher education. You've heard it earlier today, but we have about 10 million people in Florida who work. That's more than the population of 40 states. And we need to add another 1.3 million jobs by 2030. And so when you think about what all that means, and then you consider U.S. News and World Report's, Ray, is it 7 years, 8 years now, something like that?
9 years.
9 years, but who's counting, right? They've rated our higher education system #1 in the United States for 9 years in a row. People outside Florida, absolutely. Thank you, Karen. People outside Florida know it, but inside, it's one of the best kept secrets. And so we wanted Ray to join us here today. Ray is the Chancellor of Florida's state university system, 12 public universities. And Ray's dedicated his life. He was in the legislature before he had this role. Ray is one of those people where if you look up doing big things in the dictionary, Ray is one of those people. He's been doing big things for a long time. And so every time we interact about higher education, it's always about that. So Ray, let's dig right in. And it's always a privilege to be back on stage with you. I want to dig right in. So this conversation about where Florida's economy is going, we have to talk not just about jobs, but high demand careers, high demand roles of the future. So on one hand, we're trying to align our economic development strategy with attracting those jobs and companies. But on the other hand, it won't mean anything if our higher education system isn't helping meet that demand. So can we start off, I have a series of questions, but can we start off with what's the university system doing to meet those high demand careers?
Yes, and thank you for the invitation. I appreciate coming back again and having the opportunity to address your businesses and your audience. I would begin by acknowledging that our university system just went through our strategic plan for the SUS. It's a 5-year strategic plan that will take us through 2030. As a key component of developing that plan, we included in the stakeholders who helped us form it, organizations such as the Chamber of Commerce and the Florida Council of 100, primarily so that we would have a private sector perspective on what is emerging in the marketplace here in the state of Florida, and how can we address that as we put our plan together. If you go beyond the strategic plan and you look at what we're doing, and a year ago I shared how the state of Florida was unique in that we defined our goals, and then we aligned our incentives to support those goals through performance-based funding. Some of those goals include programs of strategic emphasis, which we'll touch on later, but it's just a brief overview. These are programs that we determine by working with our partners in the private sector, as well as our partners at the Department of Commerce, to determine where are the needs in the state of Florida in terms of the job market. Where are they now and where are they projected to be in 5 years? And the degrees that support those needs can be designated a program of strategic emphasis. And I'll touch on the rest of that later. So I would say we partner with the private sector in putting together our strategic plan. We partner with the private sector and our Department of Commerce to determine what the needs are in our state. And then finally, before new majors are adopted, one of the things we consider is this a field that has demand that will support employment from the graduates after they get their degree?
Ray, thanks so much for that. And you mentioned programs of strategic emphasis. You and I've talked a lot about this over the years. Could you just let everybody here know what that means? What even is that? Do other states have it? Does every state have it? Is this something unique to Florida? And then would you mind giving us a couple examples? and how that helps with the first question of how are we building the talent we need and so forth.
Sure. I would begin by saying I think what we're doing in this area is unique. There are a handful of states that do performance-based funding. I don't think anyone does it like Florida does. And while there may be other states who have identified critical gaps in their workforce, I don't know that any of those states have aligned the funding that institutions receive to filling those critical work gaps. What we have done is we have defined programs of strategic need. I touched on earlier how we do that, who we work with in terms of the Department of Commerce and our partners in the private sector. STEM degrees were where the greatest demand was found when we created programs of strategic emphasis. And when we started performance-based funding, STEM degrees were slightly less than half of the total degree production within our university system. By identifying where the workforce needs are, we provided incentives for the universities to ensure that they had the faculty to mount the sections that were necessary for students to get degrees in those fields. Today, STEM degrees are nearly 2/3 of our degree production within the university system. Why is that important? Because our economy needs those graduates, number one. And number two, those graduates have jobs waiting on them when they obtain their degree. Some of the biggest challenges in higher education today are, one, people not graduating. 40% of students who enroll nationally never walk away with a degree. And number two, students who are graduating not being able to find a job or a well-paying job. And in Florida, that's just not the case. Because we've embraced performance-based funding and programs of strategic emphasis, 75% of our graduates are employed a year after they graduate. The median wage is $50,000. The average, the mean is, I believe, $53,000. So our graduates are getting jobs, and they're getting jobs that pay well, and they're able to step into the economy and be a productive contributor immediately so that we can go from 16 to 15 soon.
Absolutely, and then 14 after that. Ray, thanks for that. I want to pivot from strategic emphasis, programs of strategic emphasis to, at the Florida Chamber, we're always asking employers all over Florida, what are the top issues that we need to work on? And a top 3 issue, as far back as I can remember, is talent. And most companies end up having more open jobs than qualified people to fill them. And that's been a big issue for a long time. We've worked on it even back when you were in the legislature. Thinking about, I'll call it real world skills, right? We have, you and I talked earlier, we have state colleges, 28 of them. We have ICUF schools, and then we have the 12 public universities. Can you, in terms of real world skills that the universities are teaching, I know there's a lot of innovative programs going on. Can you speak to our members about what the universities are doing relative to real world skills?
Yes. I would begin by acknowledging that this is something that all of our universities recognize the importance of. I think one of the great things about our system here in Florida is that we have a system where every university has a board of trustees, in addition to our board of governors, which governs the system as a whole. Our board of trustees are generally community leaders within the community of the university on which they serve, and they're very plugged into local needs as well, and specifically the skills that are developed and necessary to be successful. One of the things we've done in Florida that I think is unique, and I'm going to take a couple of minutes on this if I can.
Absolutely.
The Wall Street Journal ran an article a week ago that noticed and noted in the article that the unemployment rate for recent college graduates is 6.6%, which was remarkable because the overall unemployment rate is 4%, and has been a little over 4%, and has been steady for a year. Which begged the question, why are recent college graduates, those who have graduated within the last 3 years, struggling to find employment? The Federal Reserve of New York noted that the gap in unemployment among recent college graduates compared to the market as a whole is the highest that it's been in 35 years. And if you've done the math, 4% to 6.6, recent college graduates are unemployed at a rate 50% higher than the average person in the economy. That begs the question, why are recent college graduates, and this is national, I want to make sure that's clear because I think we're getting it right in Florida, but why are recent college graduates struggling to get employed? This doesn't happen overnight. This takes time for a trend like this to develop. 2 years ago, Intelligent.com ran a survey of 800 human resource professionals and asked them, do you plan to hire in the upcoming year? And if you do, will you prioritize hiring someone with a college degree? And what they learned from that survey is more than a third of those who intended to hire in the upcoming year were not going to hire individuals with a college degree, which was stunning. So Intelligent followed up and said, why? And the number one reason that was given by these HR professionals is that the new generation of college graduates are too easily offended. That was the number one reason. That was 2 years ago. A year ago, Red Balloon, which is a job recruiting service, and Public Square surveyed 70,000 small businesses. And they asked them, are you more likely or less likely to hire a college graduate, a recent college graduate? And by a margin of 4-1, the answer was less likely to hire a college graduate. And so they followed up and said, why? And the answer was, recent college graduates have an ideology which is incompatible with our business culture. So here's the effect of why bills like Senate Bill 266 that the legislature passed in 2023 are so important. Higher education nationally has lost its way because they're more focused on ideology than they are quality education and producing individuals who can step into the workforce and contribute. And when you graduate a generation of students who are indoctrinated into left-wing ideology for the 6 years that they're enrolled, because outside of Florida, the average graduate takes 6 years to get their degree, and that ideology is rooted in Marxism, which these divisive concepts are, is it really a surprise that 6 years later, when they get their degree and they step into a small business in the private sector, that they're easily offended and that their ideology is incompatible with the business? It shouldn't be. But in Florida, we recognize that, and we're removing the indoctrinating concepts from our mandatory classes. They're available if students wish to study them on their own, but no one's going to be mandated to sit through those concepts. And we're going to produce graduates who enter the workforce with the belief that the problems of the world aren't the fault of our constitutional republic and your business. Those are the graduates we're producing in our Florida State University system and in our Florida college system.
Ray, thank you for that. I actually want to pivot from there and the experience. I want to talk about work-based experience, internships and co-ops and so forth. It dawns on me, everybody in this room at some point had someone, help them and learn. As we make mistakes, we learn, and you talk about work-based learning. It dawns on me, this conference today is going to be over around 4 o'clock. And everybody in this room knows that 4 o'clock in Tampa in the summer means it's probably going to rain. And some people are going to get wet, some people are going to get soaked, and some people are going to say, I knew better. And sometimes we just need an instructor to kind of walk us through what these situations look like. And so I'm wondering, what is the university system's approach? We're interested in more internships and co-ops. What's the university's approach?
We're definitely interested in more internships and co-ops as well. There's an organization called the Burning Glass Institute, which has studied workforce trends among college graduates for a number of years. And what they have found is that I gave you the high unemployment rate for recent college graduates. The piece that I didn't share with you is among those who have found jobs, a significant portion of them are what's called underemployed, which means they're in a career in which greater than 50% of the people who hold that job do not have a degree. That is a significant trend in higher education across the country today, as graduates have received degrees that are not connected to the marketplace, is that they are underemployed. Underemployment is a threat. What the Burning Glass Institute has found is that the number one indicator for whether an individual has a very productive career or not is, will the first job they accept after college be a professional job, or will they be underemployed? If they're underemployed, it is very difficult to break out of that later in their career. If they get a professional job right out of the gate, their professional career, not political. I'm a recovering politician, so forgive me. Their professional career will be much more successful than those who have settled for a job that does not require a degree. The number one indicator of who gets a professional job offer after they graduate is, have they completed an internship? And it's not companies whom they've completed the internship with that are hiring them. Many are, But it's the fact that employers, when they're looking at recent college graduates, want to know, have you been connected to the marketplace? Do you understand the job I'm trying to hire you for? And do you have a track record that shows you can do it? That is the number one indicator. So our universities recognize that. They want to partner with the business community. There is a strong belief that internships are good, not just for the local businesses, but for the students who go through the internships. And co-ops are even better because co-ops are guaranteed jobs when a student graduates. Takes a little longer to get the degree, but that's fine because those jobs are going to be waiting on the graduates when they receive that degree. And from our perspective, that fulfills the mandate of what we're looking to do as a system.
Ray, thanks for that. I'm thinking, when we think of universities, a lot of times we think of research and development. We think of just what's on the cutting edge of innovation. And then when we think of companies, we think of a lot of companies are on the cutting edge of what an industry is doing. I'm curious, as we're training future workers, right, learners to earners at our universities, what might be some innovations that are going on right now that we're teaching these students that are going to help them on the employability side down the road?
I think what you've seen within our entire university system is a recognition of technology that is emerging and a need to employ that technology, to be familiar with it, know how to utilize it, and deploy that technology in their jobs. I would think of all the systems, our system in Florida is among the leaders in artificial intelligence. You can look at the work that's been done at the University of Florida and the development of those programs. It's not isolated to the University of Florida. There are multiple other universities who are also educating their students on the emerging technology of artificial intelligence. It's being incorporated into classrooms and classroom instructions so that our students can become more familiar with it, and that when they enter the marketplace, will have that as an advantage for them over applicants who have not gone through that. The other aspect that I would add is really cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is becoming much more important each year that goes by, and I think we've seen across our system multiple universities who are leading on the leading edge of cybersecurity innovation and cybersecurity improvement. And those universities are working very hard with their students and their graduates to equip them to step into the modern economy and deploy those skills effectively.
Thank you. Chancellor, my last question for you is going to be about what the business community can do better to be a partner with you and the universities. I know we talk about this every time we meet, whether it's one company who needs something or an industry, but as we leave here, what can we all do to be a better partner with you as we go forward?
Well, let me begin by thanking you again for participating with the development of our strategic plan as a system. You've been a partner to us. We appreciate that. For the individual businesses that are out there, what I can tell you is we have greater demand for internships than we have companies that are looking for interns. So if you wish to contribute to the overall success of both our system, your local institution, and the students who are going to graduate from that, take a hard look at whether an internship is something your business can participate in, and contact your local university and let them know that you're interested if that is the case. The more students that we can engage in internships, the greater the likelihood, as I said earlier, that they're going to be successful getting that first job after they graduate that will put them on a great track for their professional development.
Well, Chancellor, thank you so very much today. And we appreciate you coming all the way here today to share with us that. I think as we think about Florida becoming the 10th largest economy in the world, as I often say, if Florida was a stock, I would be investing in it as much as I could. And our university and college system is a major reason for that. So on behalf of all of us all over Florida and everyone that's online today, Ray, thanks so much for our partnership. Thank you for being here.
Can I make one more statement?
Yeah, you get the last word. One more. Thank you, Joel.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I really appreciate what you just said, and I just want to, since we have a few seconds to build on that, we know, because the data just came out, that in Florida, no state invests in higher education like the state of Florida does. And a tip of hat to our Florida House of Representatives, our Florida State Senate, and our governor for championing that. When it comes to revenue, the national average is a 50-50 split between students paying for it and the state appropriating it. In Florida, the latest numbers show that it's 88% state appropriation, 12% paid for by the students. That's why we have the lowest tuition in the nation. And the data shows if you invest in a Florida education, your rate of return, your ROI, is greater than if you put those dollars in the stock market. So you've got a great system supported by a legislature that keeps a firm and close eye on it. And we are a tremendous investment. Thank you.
Well, Chancellor, thank you for that. Like I say, facts matter, so I'm glad we stopped the music for that. So, Ray, thank you very much.
Yep.